And we are live. Good morning, everyone. So today I'm going to introduce Scott Charles. He is our instructional designer here at Ken Cook Company. A little bit about myself first. My name is Aaron Murray. I'm the Director of Training Services and Product Management for Ken Cook Company. Ken Cook's been around for about 75 years and has been working in technical communications for that entire time. Scott's going to give you a quick breakdown on the evolution of technical manuals, written manuals, and how to rethink the overall process of what a manual needs to be these days. With that being said, Scott also may every once in a while chime in and ask me to kind of come in and see if there's anything I could do to help or assist. On top of that, we are asking you to reach out directly to me for any communication. You can reach out to me on Twitter at UglyBrew, or you can also pull me up on LinkedIn. I'm the Flat Cap guy on LinkedIn. And most likely, if you found this link to the streaming anyways, you'll see that communication in those forms also as well. As those come in, I will be popping Scott messages so that we can kind of control the overall communication and how this works and goes. If you do have any questions, we do encourage you, please, to reach out. With that being said, Scott Charles.
Thank you, Aaron. Yeah, so just to reiterate, please do chime in through one of the ways that Aaron just laid out, so we can make this as conversational as possible, though obviously we are limited to the way that everything is set up digitally. But with that said, I appreciate anybody who has taken the time to check out our presentation today, and I will just jump right in. So rethinking the written manual. This really spawned from the idea that a lot of our customers and their user base are needing more ways to access the information that they have to put out, whether it's an instruction manual, a maintenance manual, even just general information about a product. We have been approaching manuals much differently lately and really going to a more digital approach. So as Aaron said, I'm Scott and I'm an instructional designer with Ken Cook Company. I've been with Ken Cook for a little over 2 years. And in that time, I've had the opportunity to work with a lot of great companies working on technical training, safety training, different kind of end user training, a lot of digital type training production, as well as instructor-led training as well. We've done that with some automotive manufacturers. And just a little bit more about Ken Cook. We started as a military equipment manual company, and we've built our way all the way up to operator training, software solutions, and kind of everything in between. We're also a print house. So as you see here, print, train, create, those are our 3 focuses. And so we have the ability to work with all of our customers in really any one of those mediums. And we have departments to fulfill and satisfy all those needs. And while we really work with any type of industry, the main industries that we focus on are the marine industry, construction industry, manufacturing, automotive, and agriculture. That's our wheelhouse essentially, and where we have the most experience. We have a lot of experts in-house, really great subject matter experts in these particular focuses, but we're also willing to and great at working with other subject matter experts and really whatever kind of training you need. So there are too many slides in this presentation deck. As I was building this presentation, this wonderful theme that I got, gave me this opportunity, and it wanted me to put a quote here. And I really couldn't think of an appropriate quote at the time, but I thought I would fulfill this. And this is exactly what my boss, who is actually Aaron, says every time I put a presentation together, or even when he's working on his own presentation. And so while I try to maintain this minimalist approach in presenting information, it always ends up being way longer than it should be. And please, provide some feedback if you're able to. At the end, you can reach out to me at my email or aaronm@kencook.com if you have any feedback, ideas on this presentation. So a quick rundown of what we'll be reviewing. We're going to go over the idea of the traditional manual, what we've experienced throughout history, especially through the 20th century, and what a manual is, what that expectation of a manual was even. Then we'll jump into digital manuals, and then their applications thereof, and we'll take some question and answer, depending on how much time we have at the end. But again, if you have some questions or comments throughout the presentation, please chime in to Aaron, and he'll relay that over, and we can have a brief discussion. Again, we do want this to be conversational if possible. So traditional manuals, I put traditional in quotes because there really isn't, a tradition per se. There really isn't the correct or right or classic manual that we can necessarily outline. Though in the slides forthcoming, I will go into some of the more standardized, again, traditional manuals that we're used to and their uses. So let's just talk about a brief history. So here's an actual useful quote. Instructions are there to compensate for the inabilities of machines by employing the abilities of users and therefore tell you something about the state of both at the time they were produced. And that's Roger Bridgman. He's a former curator at London Science Museum. So manuals focus on the need of the end user. They indicate the time and period and even the culture in which they were produced through their style and layouts. They're more than just a practical how-to list. They can reveal a lot of information about the time and society in which they were written, and how they have evolved over time kind of tells us how we've changed too. And so, the layout, the length of a manual, the size, the medium of a manual has changed over time. And that's really indicative of how we as a society use manuals and our expectations of them. And so just to go over the ones I have here, I picked out some classics. On the left, we have the Box Brownie Kodak camera. This is from the earlier 1900s. And these were really interesting manuals in the sense that they didn't just tell you, very specifically how to use the camera. They talked about composition of photography and how to take a good photo. And so it was much more of kind of a humanized manual. It really related with the customer and the user, and was not just about the technical portions of the manual. And that was probably one of the first and best places where that type of use for a manual was ever used. And those manuals, if you ever have a chance, you can find them pretty easily online. They're just pretty neat. They include pictures, text, and they were kind of ahead of their time for manuals. We jump really far ahead and we look at IKEA manuals. Those are pretty classic and recognizable. I would say just about everybody would probably pull up an IKEA manual page and they know it was from IKEA, even if it didn't say it. And one of the unique things about IKEA manuals, as most of us know, is that they don't include any text. It's all picture-based. And this is for good reason. IKEA ships their products to many countries, and so they need many languages for any text that they produce. And so by omitting the text, that saves a lot of time, effort, even money. You could argue at times the omission of text could be a little bit troublesome. I'm sure we've all had points at which we were a little frustrated building IKEA furniture, but they are definitely a pretty unique approach. Then we jump to more of a standard manual. This is a John Deere manual that I believe we, Ken Cook, have worked on. It's an operator manual, very text-based, very straightforward, black and white. And then finally, I really love this one, this Commodore 64 User's Guide. If you want to talk about a cover and a design that really is indicative of the time and place that this particular product was made, this screams the 80s, of course, with that color, with that graphics, just really interesting. And Aaron, I just want to check in if we have anybody who's chimed in.
We've got more people that are coming into the system itself, but no questions at this time. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the reason I asked that is because at this point I wanted to ask what types of guides and manuals that you might use or experience or even create in your everyday or professional life. There's a lot of different uses for manuals and guides. And so, Aaron, if anybody chimes in, if you can read any of those off, I'll give it a minute. And if not, we'll just jump to the next slide.
why don't we jump to the next slide for now? But it looks like I do have some communication coming in on my Twitter.
Okay.
Just waiting to see what it is.
Okay, no problem. So here's a list of probably some of the more common uses for manuals and guides. We have maintenance, assembly, troubleshooting, regulatory, technical, diagrams, installation, etc. I won't read off all of them, but really the idea that manuals and guides can be utilized for so many different things. They really have the ability to help us with everyday products, things in our everyday life, things in our professional life. Obviously at Ken Cook, we deal with a lot of manufacturing type companies, so we have a lot of operation type manuals, a lot of safety manuals. There are just so many uses, and therefore the medium in which that these guides and manuals are delivered in, it really becomes an important consideration, because the time at which you need the information, the way you're able to access it, where you are, all those things really matter when it comes to getting the information you need. Another idea that has really become more and more popular, especially with the advance of the internet, is the idea of consumers utilizing manuals for product research. And so manuals have, in many instances, had to take on a more marketing feel. They're better designed, they're a little more eye-catching, and their layouts are even sometimes a little more marketing focused than they might even be instruction focused. And so this is just something that's been interesting in a consideration, and something that we've seen in working with some of the companies that we've worked with, is these more graphical, better design type manuals. And another quote that I can put out there, this is from Helene Schumacher. Manuals used to be solely reference guides that would accompany a product. Increasingly, however, people will refer to a product's instructions to check out its technical specifications in advance of buying. The manual now is part of the purchase process. And I know personally, just as I shop for products, especially electronic related products online, I'm looking at the manuals, I'm comparing technical specifications, and so it's become an important thing for me. So now that we've talked about a brief history and kind of what we've been used to in the past with manuals, let's talk about digital manuals and what the benefits of digital manuals are. And so when we talk about digital manuals, we're talking about a manual that can be accessed on some type of digital device. So whether that is a computer, the laptop, desktop, it could be on an iPhone or an Android phone, so a phone. It could be on a tablet. It could be in a machine interface, maybe something on a production floor built into a machine. It has a screen, and we can access that technical information there. So another quote from Helene: "A successful instruction manual is one that's used as little as possible. It is kind of the supporting actress waiting in the wings. It's the product that's the hero, the one that the consumer wants to be engaging with, and it's the one that the manufacturer wants the consumer to be engaging with. The instruction manual facilitates that relationship, and if it is an effective relationship, it has to be simple." So again, why?
Yep. So Scott, I got just a quick thing on that last part. Is the key word there, if you go back for a second, is the key word there is it facilitates, right? And for me, that's always the key here. So you may have an amazing product that's easy to use, really flush, but even companies like Apple, who have built products to make them so user-friendly, still include a manual, still have instructions of some sort as a way for people to guide in, because as things grow, as things get better, more and more complexity gets added. So I can't put in more of an emphasis that why it's important still. If you're a company putting out a product and think it's flawless, the truth is you still need something to help with that relationship.
I totally agree, Aaron. Thank you for chiming in. I think digital manuals provide the best flexibility for content delivery, and they have the ability to become a better utility for consumer instruction and assistance. And again, they allow the product to be the focus, with the assistance of that media, so that people are, especially Apple, again, that's a great example. It's about that product. It's about that iPhone, that iPad being in your hands and using it. And so we don't want to take away from that experience. We want this information to help facilitate that experience. Okay, so jumping into why digital. So first thing, accessibility and availability to the end user. So whether it's online, mobile, desktop, HMI, kind of these things I was saying earlier, um, having it most accessible and most available is what's important. Um, Having it in that just-in-time experience, so that when you have a question or when you're working on a piece of machinery or whatever it may be, you're not waiting to get an answer. You're not having to contact a third party. It's that information you need when you need it. Ease of updating content when needed. So, in a traditional manual, when we want to update content, we have to do a number of things. We can put out an addendum. We can send additional pages that can be added to a physical manual, or we can put out a whole manual in its entirety and print it. And that can be cumbersome, that can be expensive, that can take some time. But with most digital manual, digital guides, we can very easily update the content just as if it were a website, and we can push that information out and that update out whenever we need to. So paper documentation, of course, can't always keep up with the product and can become obsolete. So then we have these paper documents out there that could have either incorrect information, old information, and that could be troublesome for a lot of reasons. And we aren't able to necessarily control that information at that point. Whereas an online or a digital platform, we always have the latest, most updated information. And sometimes paper manuals may not align with how users find or consume information. Some people just don't work well with a big book of text in front of them. They need more, they need better interaction, they need video, they need mock-ups, they need other ways to consume that information that they might better learn from. The text doesn't always help those people. And so we can go beyond just text and images from a plain printed book. We can include enhanced media that's scalable, so that's really important. So a lot of the customers that we work with, they're using schematics, whether it be for electronics or other things, and being able to scale and zoom and have really high quality images on a screen is really helpful and important. Whereas if you have that particular diagram, for example, on a 8 by 10 piece of paper, for example, there's only so much you can get out of that as far as the quality goes of that image. Of course, we can add videos, which are extremely helpful, 3D illustrations. You can add links. And having video and this other content makes it more real. It makes it more like you are interacting with that particular product or that particular function or use.
Scott, this one always hits home for me on this piece, because we have some wonderful partners and customers out there that have done a really good job of doing that next step and putting in video, and hearing the feedback from the technicians out in the field. I got to attend a seminar last year that's basically teaching technicians on how to work on outboard motors, engines, things like that in the marine industry, and hearing from them, like, the ability to be able to use a paper manual to try to get some kind of a diagnostic or thing to try to figure out what's going on while they're already in a tight space on the water trying to figure things out. It's really difficult for them to try to use that. So they always have to end up leaving the boat or the piece of equipment and things like that, and then going somewhere, reading the information, then going back. Whereas, hearing from them, like, hey, yeah, I'd set up my iPhone in a specific area that I clip to the wall, and then watch the instructional workflow as I go through it in order to do this specific need here. So it's always really great to hear that those stories obviously are what truly people need versus the way we've been doing things in the past. It's always good to hear that that's actually a benefit and from a real use case.
Yes, yeah, and I've had a lot of those conversations and experiences as well. The proof is really in the data that we've seen, that people really prefer and utilize video. It's just extremely helpful. Again, it makes it real. It's much better than looking at a piece of paper with even just a picture. So faster navigation. searching, scrolling, etc. So simply building in a search tool is extremely beneficial, and we do that in just about every, if not every, kind of digital manual or guide that we put together. Going to an index, searching for that particular word or term can be difficult and cumbersome, and being able to do that in an actual digital guide where, just like you're using Google, essentially, you start typing a word, information pops up, it's responsive. That's extremely important. And then simply being able to quickly scroll through content, not having to flip through a ton of pages, getting there quicker. All these things really help and assist. Social integrations. So building in ways to connect and get more information than you ever really could before. You can build forums or connect to forums and blogs. You can have a question and answer section. And you can essentially just integrate your support services all together. So there's really a one-stop shop for information and support built in, so that if a person does exhaust all the information in every way within that digital manual or guide to find the information they need, they can very easily click, call, type, and connect with other types of support services to get the information they need. And that ends up really being more of the last resort. And so that can really save on your support services time, money, and the amount of people you really need to do that support. Excuse me. So multilingual options. It's very easy for us to build in language switching options into a digital manual or guide. We can quickly switch from English, for example, to Spanish, French, Chinese, whatever it may be. We can build in those different options, and therefore we're not having to print many different manuals in many different languages and have all of those available, or necessarily even include them with a product. We can have all of those digitally, and then a user can select the specific language that works for them best.
Yeah, and again, the best part of this from a digital standpoint is if you have to do an update again, and you still now have to do that update now in 14, 20 different languages, you're now just doing it digitally in one place. So you push that, do that push globally across the board versus just a single entity. Or as a book would be like a printed physical book, you'd have to print out all those addendums on top of that to go out there as well. And then hopefully it gets to the end user. So
exactly. Yep. So develop templates for fast production. Obviously, we have templates and we utilize templates for printed manuals, but on a digital level, we can do this even quicker. And we can really customize things to focus on that particular product or that particular brand. And again, it just pushes things even faster. And so if we have, let's say 5 products that are all very similar, maybe they're just variations on each, we develop the template, the theme for that particular product, and we just plug the information in for each one. And so really it's developing that first manual, that first guide, and then the other ones subsequently go much, much quicker. So reduce and or eliminate print costs. And so this is an interesting one, especially coming from our company, which it has been and still is a print house. Again, we offer all these different solutions, but print is still necessary in some instances, whether it's for regulatory reasons, legal reasons. But in a lot of instances, if you can not have to print, then you can save, obviously, a ton of money. We have companies that we work with that have been warehousing books for years and years, and these books sit there sometimes collecting dust. And instead of doing so, they can move to another option. So if they do need to still provide print in certain instances, they can do a print on demand, which is something that we actually are able to fulfill and do fulfill often for our clients here at Ken Cook. We have a print on demand option where your bookstore is essentially all digital. We can help you create that digital bookstore, and when a customer, a user needs a particular book or sets of books, they submit an order. We very quickly turn around that order, and they have those books shipped out. Now, this is usually in addition to the digital version of a manual or a guide. So you can have one or both options. And it's become really, really helpful and a big cost saver for a lot of our customers.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely times where a printed version actually is probably beneficial. There
Mhm.
aren't always the same case of being able to, a great example is your car breaks down the side of the highway, right? And you need to be able to get access or pull up the information. Maybe there's no cell signal out where you are. Whereas if you had the printed book in that area, you'd be able to just simply open up the manual and take a look at it from there. So there's definitely still a need, but just having a digital option is still the better way we feel from that end of things. But what are your thoughts on that, Scott?
Yeah, that is a really great example of the car. Sometimes you just need that physical manual, or if you have your phone and you have access to a digital manual, well, what if your phone runs out of battery? It can become a very significant safety concern. So, the idea of a printed manual, I don't want to give this idea that it's going to go away entirely, because I don't think it ever will, or really ever should. There definitely is still need for it, and so we have to really consider the user base, the how this product is going to be used, how is that information going to need to be accessed for this product or service, and so again, it's really coming up with that custom solution that works for the end user, for the client, to decide, how much printed material do we need, how much digital do we need, can we get away in this certain instance with just some material printed and some digital. There are a lot of different products that require many different levels of books. So you might have an operations manual, you might have a procedural manual, technical manual, so on and so forth. Well, maybe some of those can be all digital, and some have to be printed or need to be in both mediums. Okay, so controlling and protecting your brand, your message, and your information. This is really becoming a big concern and issue with a lot of products. There are so many third parties that you can go to find information, such as YouTube, unofficial websites, blogs, etc. And you might get the information you're looking for on a particular product or item by going to those places, but it may or may not be correct. And how do you know who to trust? And so when you have an official website, an official website for your guides and manuals, for your training, etc., people know that they can trust that information, as they should, because it's coming right from the people that produce that particular product or item. So being in control is extremely helpful. So, for example, I'm actually going to jump to another screen here. Bobcat is one of our customers that we create training for, and they have their own official YouTube page with videos that teach you how to do certain things. But I could also easily just search here for, a Bobcat skid steer and get tons of information from third parties, some that might be reputable, some that might be correct. Could be this guy, outside on his property putting a video together. Again, it all might be great information, but is it the correct information? And when it comes to heavy equipment, for example, we become concerned about safety. And so we want to ensure, and we want our customers to ensure, that they're getting all of that correct information out there, so people are doing things right the first time and they're being safe as well.
Yeah, the truth is that the question is, do you want to control the message from your brand, or do you want other people to control that message for you? You get the choice. By you putting out the positive content and the correct content is going to make a huge difference versus just relying on other people to do it for you.
Okay, yeah, it's a very good point. So we touched on this a little bit earlier, but reducing calls to customer service. Again, customer service, having technicians dispatched to users, these are all the last resort types of things that we want. We want people to be able to get that support on their own, fix the issue when they can. And so this can obviously reduce the rate of return and increase customer satisfaction overall, and save money overall. We're having less product come back, less product restocked or not sellable, and then less support folks, less customer service people, less technicians that have to be out in the field to fix a particular issue. And an example of this, we have a customer that we started working with a number of years ago. and they had an extremely high number of support calls. And by implementing a digital strategy that included digital training, digital manuals, and other information, they were really able to reduce their overall support calls about 99%, which I know seems like an absurd amount, but it really is true. They get very few calls now for support, very few communications for support, and those are mainly related to customer issues about using the technologies in their computer. They're just a little bit confused, and it's rarely about the actual product or service. So it really can make a huge difference for you when you move to a digital strategy. Aaron, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, from a proper digital strategy on that, you can really, reduce that call volume. But on top of that, the truth is, people want to know how to get the answer themselves. They don't want to have to go look for it for somebody else. They don't want to have to ask or call support. They don't want to do those things. When they're calling support, you've already got a disgruntled person at that point, and your goal is to now resolve them. So if you can have that to be a lower volume and give them the ability to be happy up front and grab that information when they need it in an easy fashion, because it's not about just going digital. It's about going digital, but with a proper strategy on how the user can find the information when they truly need it. So, yeah.
Yep. And I think this is the last main reason that we have here for a digital platform is extended reality. And this is something that is becoming more and more commonly used, though in some instances can be expensive and not necessarily the best solution. But when we talk about extended reality, we're talking about augmented reality, virtual reality, and mixed reality. So there are definitely different industries, different companies that are taking advantage of extended reality so that people can, again, kind of like video, it becomes more real to them, and it becomes easier for people to get that information and to really hold that onto that information in their heads. And so there are certain instances where we could use a device like this headset you see here, but we could do more basic things with augmented reality. We're using a phone or an iPad, and we're going to go over some more specific examples of that in a little bit. But before we jump into some of the applications, Aaron, is there any questions or comments that you want to bring from our viewers or our participants?
There's no questions at this current time.
Okay, thank you. So let's take a look at some actual uses. So I'm going to go over briefly two different guides that we've worked on at Ken Cook. One is with the fine folks at the Association of Equipment Manufacturers. They're an organization that we've worked with for many years. And then I'm going to show off an example of an outboard water pump manual that we put together here at Ken Cook as well. So I'm going to quickly jump to the AEM example. So this is a best practices reference guide. And this is all related to equipment safety, as you see. And so there's some really important information here that this particular user base needs to have access to, again, for their safety and also for specific regulatory reasons. And so this is a pretty basic guide. We have it separated into 8 different sections, almost like chapters, pretty straightforward. And so somebody can click onto a section and it takes them right into the information. We include text, images, and video in this particular guide, as well as voiceover. So all the text that you see here has voiceover. If we hit play,
we wish to thank the members of the Association of Equipment Manufacturers.
We're going to be able to hear the information, and that's extremely important from an accessibility point of view, as well as, where am I accessing this information? Do I need to be listening to the information while I'm working on a particular repair or something of that nature? I'm just going to jump to another page where we can just get the idea of how video is integrated. So we have some of these built-in safety videos, iconography. And if I come up here to my top right, we have that built-in search tool that I was talking about. So, if I want to look how to operate something, it's responsive. Information automatically starts popping up, and then I can select, and it'll take me to that particular page. and I can see what I'm looking for. And I can jump back home and switch to a different section. It's fairly straightforward, and that's the point. It's simple. Aaron, is there anything you wanted to add to this particular one?
This is a great example from an operator safety kind of standpoint for people to be able to reference and pull up quickly when they need it. Kind of that just-in-time style training. So they can come in here, read through this material before they get into their piece of equipment. But on top of that, like before they go back out again, like maybe they stop working on a piece of equipment for a long period of time, and they're about to go back out and dig for the first time in 6 months, as an example. This is a great place for them to be able to come back to and just jump to the key aspects that they just need versus having to flip through the manual and try to figure it out. They can, really just get to the section that they need or search for the things that they actually specifically want to get access to as well.
Yes, and I'm not sure if we'll be able to see this when I resize this, but all of the stuff that we create is made actually with a mobile first strategy. So it's really created for digital use on an iPad, an iPhone. Now, Aaron, I'm going to scale this. Can you let me know if this changes at all?
Works correctly. Looks good.
Yeah, so we've scaled this down to what would be essentially a mobile size. It's responsive. All the information is still easily accessible and seen, all the videos. We can scale it up a little bigger, and we would get like an iPad or a tablet size. Okay, let's jump to the outboard water pump manual that we worked on. So this is essentially a generic instruction manual for replacing an outboard water pump. For those of you who don't know, this is essentially the engine on the back of a boat. And so this one is much more linear instruction based. So we start off with the components needed. We have everything labeled so people know visually and through text what the parts are that they will need. And then this is a very video-heavy, video-focused guide. This is me actually going through and doing the work on removing the existing water pump. So we'd hit play. This can be full screen.
The water pump housing by loosening the...
There's voiceover, so you'll actually hear what the text is here and visually see it as well. And it takes you kind of step by step through here until you get to the point at which you have removed the water pump, and it lets you know, good job, you've done what you've needed. And then it takes us back through, essentially doing the opposite, reinstalling that until we get to the end. Congratulations, you've done it. Now we have built in a lot of the same functions as the AEM one that we just showed you, the search. And in this particular instance, I want to know how to, remove, how to do this. This will actually let us search what specifically we're looking for. So let's say you've done this 50 times. This is something you do. You work on outboard engines, but you forgot how to do that one particular thing. Well, you can come in and find that very quickly. You don't have to scroll through the entire thing. You can just search for what you're looking for and get that information. We also have a built-in glossary for this one, where you can click on a particular term, find out what it is. It's also a very useful function, very quick and easy. And you can even build in resources. So in this instance, we actually have a built-in manual for a specific motor if we wanted to, and or other resources that can be listed here. So it's all integrated right within this guide, in this manual. We can also jump to particular sections through this function as well, and it'll take us right there.
Yeah, there's actually even more to that as well. So the cool thing about utilizing a tool set like this and the search function. So let's say, you guys build out this digital manual. It's not just about setting it and forgetting it. It's about setting it up and then looking over the data and seeing how it actually performs. So the truth is, we may think that a person may want to know how to do a specific thing or know things, but the truth is you need to know what the customer wants. So when a person goes up there, let's say Scott goes back up to that search button, he types in there and he was to type in something completely different. Maybe he starts typing in, maybe changing a bolt or something like that, as an example. Now, if that information's not coming up correctly or displaying on there, that information actually is triggered within the backend data so that you can see, hey, everybody's looking for this, but we're not able to deliver what they actually need. That way you now know what you need to build more of or make enhancements to. And again, since it's not a printed manual, you can make those adjustments, hit publish, and boom, everybody else gets it when it's needed right on the spot.
Yes, and just so everybody knows, we're using the ADAPT framework in these particular guides and manuals. It's an open source tool set that allows you to really develop a lot of different functions and to have a lot of different types of built-in accessibility. And there's a lot more that can be added to these through the ADAPT tool set. But there are obviously other different tool sets and authoring tools that are out there that can be utilized as well that we've also utilized. But this is one we've had really good experience with and have really worked for these particular companies and many others that we've worked with. So I wanted to just quickly show an online example of instruction manuals that really does a fine job, and this is ifixit.com, and they've been around for a number of years, and it really started, I believe, as a website for folks to come to fix their Apple computers and their Apple products, because there wasn't necessarily a lot of great information out there, especially at the time, for doing so. Some companies, such as Apple, restrict some of the information that they put out there, and so this is definitely an example of a third party coming in and giving information that might not necessarily be sanctioned and approved by the company itself, but I really want to just show off how they have these repair guides, and they've really expanded to a lot of other things: phones, tablets, computers, game systems. And so if we go into one of these sections, I'll just pull up one of their manuals. Here, a Mac laptop, that's actually what I'm on right now. They even tell you the parts and tools that might be needed, and you can even get it through them now or other third parties if needed. There's question and answers built in. Let's go to the guides here. So this is a tear down of a computer. Again, kind of showing all the parts. There's video overview, introduction, and then kind of step-by-step information. Really well done. So if you have a chance, check out ifixit.com.
Well, I mean, even there is a great example of it's not just about they're using the manual as a way to sell components and parts and tools and things like that. So you brought up the marketing efforts before. This is a great example of how you can really expand. So if you're a company out there that's maybe an OEM equipment manufacturer and you want to start selling more parts and things like that, by integrating in a digital tool set like they had here, where they showed you literally you go through, find the different things. Here's the places to buy those different components and parts right on the spot. It's just a great way to increase, not just simply increase the information and awareness, but also a great way to use as a way to market and increase your overall profitability and sales.
Yep. So to get a little more detailed into the specifics of extended reality, this is some examples of augmented reality. And a quote we have here: augmented reality provides an effective digital interface that displays the content visually during initial setup, configuration, troubleshooting, regular maintenance, or for the demonstration of proper usage. Augmented reality delivers an immersive experience, enabling the user to feel self-reliant, empowered, and in control, translating directly into a positive customer experience. And so the example we show here is a tablet that is in view of an oven, a range, and in bringing it in front of that oven and range, it actually shows a tear down of all the components, but we would be able to see other information too. And there are a number of different ways that this can be achieved. If you look on the right, we have QR codes, beacons, different locations based upon geolocation, and these are all different ways that we can achieve an augmented reality experience. Aaron, do you want to elaborate on this a little more?
Sure, yeah. We've actually done a couple of great examples and built outs for a couple different customers to show them ways that we could do this. QR codes are a very inexpensive way to kind of build something out. It's printing up a simple sticker and sticking it on something and it represents it. But you can also do things based off of geographical shapes and things like that, where you can have your iPad, iPhone, or your AR headset see, okay, this is the buttons and this is the information, and have it display that. What we used here as an example is that we used actually QR code on a piece of equipment and then showed an exploded view. So this was all content that already existed, that they've already built out. We just simply integrated the two together as that example. Beacons are pretty dominant these days in the retail space. So if you walk into a Home Depot these days and you're using the Home Depot app, you'll have little things that pop up and say, hey, in this section, this area, this is for sale, or things like that, or even walk you through their store where it gives you an AR walkthrough to go through those examples. So this is where you need to be in order to get access to it. And that's what they use, these little beacons, to help you find guidance to where you need to get access to the items themselves. AR, I really do feel is the way things are going to be in a very short period of time. As soon as we have some companies like Microsoft and Apple able to make more of a everyday type item that can be set on our glasses. If you don't go in that digital strategy now, the truth is I believe that AR is going to replace even the digital manual, because it's just going to be, if I'm out there working on a piece of equipment and I need to work something as a technician, if I can pull that up right on my eyes and my headset right away to get that answer, that graphic information, if you're not prepared for that in the next 5 years, it's going to be a huge issue. You'll be behind the times from everybody else at this time.
Sure. So just real briefly, as we're getting to the end of this presentation, I did want to bring up a few examples of authoring tools that you can access on your own and build content. And there are even some that we use as well. For example, Inkling is a great company. They have a few great products, but they really have a great product for developing or putting together information, digital material, and getting it out there. I would probably say Docket is one of the most straightforward and most well-intended digital guide and instruction manual platform. It's really meant to be easy and really focuses on what we've been talking about today. There are other ones out there, such as Flipping Book and Quirl, that aren't necessarily specifically designed for these functions, but can definitely be used and adapted as such. You don't necessarily have to use a particular authoring tool or tool set that is designed for specifically a digital guide or manual to produce something that gets that information out there in a very usable digital function. Aaron, is there anything you wanted to add for these?
I'm a massive fan of the Inkling tool set. The one thing about it is it's anybody can use it. You can pretty much put it in front of somebody. If you're a current tech writer, as long as you can spend about a week to learn a tool, you'll now have a whole new tool set that allow you to build out a mobile digital platform, tool set. The one thing about it is it's pricey. It's not inexpensive to set it up. So you just got to do your cost analysis to see what's the best way to go. I will tell you from an ease of use that you don't get much easier than the Inkling tool set.
Sure, and we're happy to talk further if anybody's interested in any of these solutions, especially Inkling. We can provide more information. So this brings us to the end, and I wanted to see if we have any question and answers before I fully wrap anything up. Aaron, has anything come through or anything else that you can think of that we should discuss?
There's about a 10-second delay between the actual live and the stream.
Okay.
So just give a few seconds here because there are some DMs coming in right now on my Twitter account. Right now we're sitting at about 17 people that are currently watching this. So cool. Whether or not they have questions, I don't know. We'll find out in just a minute. Let's see here. A lot of people saying thank you, Scott, for your time. That's about it.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you, everybody, for attending. I'll just jump ahead here real quick, and we can always answer a few questions if they come in. Again, I do want to thank everybody. This is my information. If you want to contact me, scottc@kencook.com, or if you want to contact Aaron as well, he's aaronm@kencook.com, and you can go to our website to get more information or contact us through there if needed. I do have some resources listed here in this presentation, and we can make it available if anybody would like to go a little bit deeper. Reach out to us, and we can get a copy of this to you. And I do want to mention SlidesGo. They actually produced this wonderful template that I utilized today. I would love to take all the credit, but besides me modifying it slightly, they put it together and really make terrific different types of templates for just about everything. And from what I can tell, they're all free, so check them out. I will leave this up here for a few seconds if you haven't had a chance to jot down my information. Anything else, Aaron? Do we have any other questions?
Not at this time, Scott. Just again, people saying thank you. And that's about it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, no problem. Well, again, thank you everybody for attending today. I hope you got at least one valuable piece of information from our presentation and conversation today. We are here and available if you have any questions, if you are interested in developing your own guides and manuals for your products, for your company. We definitely love to chat with you and give you even more information. This is kind of just the tip of the iceberg as far as what's out there, what the solutions are, and what the real benefits are from a digital manual, digital guide type approach and platform. So we hope to do more of these in the future and present more information. But until then, we hope to be in touch. Have a great day.